The GovClose certification is generating tremendous results. So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, you've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal, is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely something, probably my best investment I've made all year.
It would be my second post on how a cold call landed a 9-figure government contract. My name's Gavin Tice.
So my name is Ethan Mart. When I was able to enroll into the GovClose program, it just exceeded all my expectations and really has provided a lot of valuable learnings and insights that I would not have found on my own.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community. Hi, I'm Deb Diller Harris.
If you want to learn how to sell to the government, if you want to learn how to start your own consulting business, if you want to learn the skills that you need to go land a 6-figure plus account executive job with big companies selling to the government, the certification program is for you. Head on over to govclose.com, check out our certification program, talk to the team. You won't regret it. All right. How's it going, everybody? Rick Howard here. Got my intro video. Today, we are going to be going over the capability statement. So, what's a capability statement? If you're selling to the government, capability statement is an industry standard. It's a one-page marketing document. It's going to cover what does your company do and why does the government care, right? So this is something that should be specifically crafted for the office that you're giving it to. I usually have several of them. If I'm working with a client, I always advise people to have several of them, but you want to be able to edit it. So today I'm going to go over the capability statement, how you want to handle that, how you can put it together. You're going to see an example of one that I've used. I took the companies off of it, so there's no company information here. So I guess it's company agnostic, but we're going to walk through just some of the things that you may want to consider. If you're putting a capability statement, you may consider revising yours. And then we'll go into a little bit of the nuance. So this one's going to be a very specific episode here today. All right, let's present my screen. Give me 1 second here, share screen. All right. So, oh, you know what? I'm going to have to take off my banner here too, so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. There we go. All right, guys. If you could see it, this is an example of a capability statement. Now, some of the things that you should note here are, one, is we need to say what the company does. Okay, now I put just my little consulting logo up there, but you would put if you're a construction company, you might have a construction company logo here. This right here, this picture, just is like the first critique that I'm going to give of the capability statement, is you want to use your space, okay? And you want to keep it at one page almost always, because you are conveying to the government office that you're trying to sell to what your company does. They should be able to look at this immediately and know what you specialize in. And that specialization should be what that office does, okay? So we're not hitting up government offices with anything, right? We're not just going to them and telling them about the 500 things that our company does because they don't care. You don't want to give them a 10-page capability statement. They're not going to read it. In fact, most capability statements, went into the trash or went into my drawer that had, hundreds of others. But there were a few, usually one-pagers, that were very specific. And the people that put them together knew exactly what my office was trying to solve. It solved problems that I had to put companies on contract for coming up probably over the next year or so. And so those are the ones that really meant something and that I would go back to find contact information, to find a few other things. Okay, so one pager, first and foremost. Now, let's take a look here. If you have a company that, where you can graphically represent something that the business does, and it makes sense to put a picture up here, maybe, if we're talking about, a company that is more involved in commodities or customization, maybe some of the things that they've actually built, fabrication company, maybe a fabrication company that builds containers that are used in shipping, or, maybe airplane parts or something like that. But anything that you could show, right? You might consider using a picture like this and plugging it in. For this particular capability statement, this is probably a waste of space. Okay. So I just want to throw that out there. And you're also going to want to have your company name prominent. But the first thing, I should be able to look at this and know exactly what the company does. Now, the next thing, let me see if I can actually make this a little bit bigger. I don't know if I can here. Maybe I can make it bigger on my screen. There we go. Okay. So, hold on here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to just type test in the chat right now. If anybody has any questions during the live stream, you can feel free to send those questions my way. Now, this is really important. You want to have 1, 2 bullets right up here that actually tell people what your company does. This should not be generic. And that's why I put, hey, our company focuses on the one thing that can help you solve your mission. I've seen some very, very bad statements up here. So, let's brainstorm, right? Like, what are some of the statements that you could put up here? And I would change it depending on what it is that I was selling, right? So let's say that I am a virtual reality office. I make virtual reality training modules, right? I have maybe some devices and I do training for the government. And the office that I'm working with, if they did virtual reality training for aircrew, right? I might craft something very specific to that. It's not going to let me edit it, but I would turn this into something like, we build, aircraft training virtual reality systems, or we build the world-class virtual reality training systems for the U.S. Air Force, especially if you've already done that in the past. You have past performance putting something like that together. I'm going to put that in there. I want that to be what they see. Now, my virtual reality training system, I could put training together probably for anything, right? But if the office is doing aircrew training, well, then that is exactly who I'm going to target right there with that statement. So that's the first thing, very targeted. And remember, you can edit this depending on the office you're sending it to, right? So you want to avoid being generic and too broad. The next thing you want to do is let the government know that you have past performance. So if you've sold to the government agencies, frankly, even if I'm a subcontractor, I'm going to claim the past performance also. You can then, by the way, you can decide as far as what the legalities are of using logos for agencies and companies. Always check with your lawyers before you do anything. I'm not telling you to do this, but for me, I want to have the logos of either companies or government agencies that I've worked with, just so I can look at it at a glance and know, oh, okay, this company's actually sold to the government before. This company actually has past performance. If you don't have past performance with the government, again, pick a couple logos of companies that you've done work with. But so this is the second piece. I do like logos. Up to you whether you actually throw them in there or not. Now, this is just a bunch of lorem ipsum, but you can put a little bit about your company, and you're just going to have to decide that, right? So our company has been in business for 20 years and does blah, blah, blah. I mean, so you could put a little bit about your company information here. But again, I'm always editing this for the office that I'm sending the CAPE statement to. You want to be specific. I need to know what your company does. Again, if you have a picture like this and it doesn't convey anything like this, get rid of it and either fill it up with use cases or put a picture in there that actually can graphically show what your business does. A statement that actually is poignant, that addresses a need, because you've already identified at this point an opportunity that you're going after. So that's why you're reaching out to this office, because that office has an opportunity that you know about because you did the research, watched my other videos, you found a source of thought, you found an acquisitions forecast, you've done your homework. You know that government office solves problems that your company wants to be involved with. By the way, like when I was doing this for the government, so when I was a government acquisitions officer, When companies came to my office, if they managed to get in there and they were giving me a briefing or a CAPE statement, and it said, for instance, I worked on intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance technologies. If a company came into me and then they handed me a CAPE statement and it talked about construction and HVAC, I'd be like, what? And this happened. This has happened, right? It's like, do you even do your research? Why are you in here? I don't care. Like, I'm thinking, get out of my office. So you're not just hitting up every acquisitions office. You're finding the offices that solve the problem that your company provides solutions to. Okay. And you're telling them that your company solves the problem that that office is trying to solve because you've done your homework, you've done your research, and you know that you could solve that problem. Now you're not wasting anyone's time, and you're directly telling them what you do. A little bit about the company. They may or may not read that, but this is very important. Use cases. I like putting at least 3, and you'll see here, these use cases only have a couple of sentences. Some of them are only 1. Now, I'm just saying, hey, be specific, because I took the actual companies that have used this format off of here. But you want to be extremely, extremely specific, right? And what do I mean by that? Okay, so in the case of the virtual reality, if we're the virtual reality company, I would say something like, we solved an aircrew training problem for this U.S. Air Force unit. Maybe we reduced training time by 10%, or we, reduced budget or saved money for the Air Force office. Any metrics like that where you saved money, you reduced training time. Maybe you have some way of managing, for this training business, if they could measure efficiency with the air crew that are going through and using the virtual reality system. There's lots of different things here, but the things that I would put in here are, who did you do the work for, government agency or commercial? What did you do, and what are the results? Numbers, percentages. Don't be vague. The government, especially the DoD, they want to see metrics. Okay, put metrics in there. So that's 3 examples. So what does that do? Well, in this case, it would tell them exactly what we do. That you have past performance visually. I'm subconsciously thinking you've worked with a bunch of government agencies because all the badges are up there. I, as a government acquisitions officer or prior government acquisitions officer, I probably never even read this. I did read this. I subconsciously put this in the back of my brain, but I am looking at this. Okay, what did you do? All right, these things are starting to resonate with me. All right, now let's get into the weeds a little bit. If you're selling to the government needs a way to put companies on contract. That's when things like the GSA schedules, like GWACs, these large government-wide acquisitions contracts, come into effect. If you've heard about things like NASA SOUP, which I had here. So I just pulled out basically some contract vehicles. Some of them are widely known, GSA, NASA SOUP. Others are a little bit less known, like JAIC, ABMS. These are kind of IDIQs, right? But what you're putting down here in ABMS, I used to be involved with ABMS as an acquisitions guy, so I threw it in here. But what you're telling the government office, the reason this is important is that if I'm an acquisitions officer and I'm looking at this, I now know that I have 4 ways to put you on contract. This is very important. One of the hardest things that I had as an acquisitions officer, once I knew what company I wanted to put on contract, is, can I actually put them on contract? Right? Because there are several mechanisms a government acquisitions office has to put a company on contract. But usually the offices only have a certain number available to them. So for instance, my office, I didn't use GSA. We just didn't really have a history of using GSA. It wasn't easy. But maybe I have access to this contract, right? To the ABMS IDIQ that I could put them on. Or maybe I have a prime that's on NASA SOUP. So if I had a prime contractor on NASA SOUP, now I might be able to subcontract the work out to your business, right? So, but if I look at this anyway, now I can start seeing, hey, maybe I have a way to get this company on contract. Again, it builds confidence, right? Starting with, what do you do? Okay, they solve my problem. Subconsciously, they have past performance working with the government. Specifically, they have specific numbers and metrics showing some of the results that they've gotten. And hopefully you've done your homework and you know what's going to resonate with that office. And okay, bam, contract vehicles. I have a way to put you on contract. Thanks to whoever just gave me a thumbs up. And now I'm going over here. Now, this may not apply to everybody. This is more for companies involved with software, companies involved with, anything that's going to hook up to a government network, essentially, especially in the DoD. One of the hardest things is, and I've done other episodes that touch on this at least, is approval to operate, right? Anybody involved with software, data is probably, rolling their eyes right now with their own problems that they've had to deal with selling to the government, trying to get whatever they have onto a government network. But if you have a software solution or an app or something, the government can't just put it on their network. In fact, it can be extremely difficult for the government to do that. The approval to operate is what you actually need. Hey, good morning, Jeff. So that approval to operate, that could take a year to get done. And usually what it is there's cybersecurity requirements, network requirements that a security officer is going to have to go through with the program manager to get any new thing, software, equipment, whatever it is, to get put on the network. The network can be unclassified, it can be classified, but just because it's unclassified doesn't mean that the leap to approval to operate is small. In fact, it's not going to be small. So what this tells the government, so if you're a company that's already selling, that's already on a network, this tells them, oh, this company is already ATO'd. And that makes it a lot easier for the government office, right? If I, as a government acquisitions guy, was sitting in my office trying to solve a problem and I had a company come in with an amazing new solution, but they're not on any government system, even if they have past performance in other areas, now I'm thinking, how long, even if I put them on contract, which could take me a while, but even if they have all the other things, how do I actually get that software solution onto my network? The government's thinking about this. How long is it going to take, right? Why do I want to go through the pain of putting it on my system? Well, here, that alleviates a big problem for me. It's already received an ATO. So now as we go through this capability statement, now this company is becoming stronger and stronger in my eyes. Now, in this case, and again, this is kind of a made up scenario, right? Because I didn't want to give any actual company information here, but several of our clients have used a format like this with their CAPE statements to great success. Oh, good morning, everyone. So this company is clearly targeting, in my mind, the DoD, because what they're saying is not only do we have an approval to operate, but we have an approval to operate on the NIPR network, which is the unclassified network. And then SIPR and JWICs are classified networks. And there's several of those. I'm not going to get too far into the weeds there. But with your business, whatever you're selling, it doesn't have to be software. This is a section to build confidence, right, with the government. So if you're selling accounting services, it could be that you have CPAs and any other certifications that accounting people have, or maybe it's that you've worked on certain government systems, right? So think through, hey, how can I use this space to build confidence? And if you haven't sold to the government, what have you done commercially that you can throw in here to really build that confidence? And maybe something that's different from your competitors that will stand out. So you want to think a little bit creatively, but the whole purpose is you solve the problem of the government office that you're handing this to. It is not generic, specific to them, and it should prop you up as a company to hire. More than one page, very rarely actually looked at the second page. You want to keep it at one page. Remember, and I may have put this in the description. The capability statement doesn't win you the contract, but a bad capability statement can absolutely lose you the contract. So a company that comes in and gave me a capability statement that showed that they didn't research anything, it says that it lists 100 different things that they do. None of them are the thing that I actually need. I mean, I am not going to actively reach out to this company. I'm not looking at them as the person that's going to solve my problem. I'm looking at them as somebody who probably doesn't put the effort in to even figure out what my office does. So why would I put them on contract to solve one of our problems? If they don't put the effort in here, they probably don't put the effort in anywhere else. So again, that's just so you know, that's your messaging, right? But a well-crafted capability statement, you do put the energy in. And again, it won't necessarily win you the contract, but it could certainly build up confidence on the government side that your company can do the work. And it could help you to stand out. This is really important. The government needs to be able to reach you, right? And this is actually probably where I use the capability statements the most, right? After I knew, hey, this company maybe solves my problem. Maybe you gave me a briefing. Now I need to reach you. I need to be able to get in touch with you. So let's talk about like this detail section is actually pretty important. And I want to just talk about some mistakes that companies make, right? One mistake that companies often make is the email. Now, sometimes the companies would put in not the email address of an actual person that I could reach out to, but like their generic company, like info@dodcontract.com, so now I'm not even emailing a person. As a government, I'm emailing like some, I don't know, some bot or some community email page. And the phone number that you put in, I still remember this, like sitting there, that phone number, if I picked up the phone to call a company that had been in my office and I got any type of answering system that was going to make me wait on hold, right? Like don't be cute. Don't put a 1-800 number in here. You're not influencing me, making me think, oh, you like went through the effort of putting a 1-800 number in there. I want to talk to a person and I want to talk to a person now. And, whether or not you think that attitude is egotistical or whatever, I can guarantee you the government offices that are solving these problems and the people, they have so much work on their plate. They have very little time. And if your company, if they're reaching out to you and you have something unique here, you want them to be able to get to a person. Probably should be you, by the way. So if you're the company owner, that should be you. Like, you want to pick up the phone. If you're the sales executive, if you're watching this and you're a sales exec, you want that phone number to be you, right? You want the person that the government reaches should be the most motivated person to pick up that phone and make the sale, get that next meeting with the government, see what they want. If they're reaching out to you, that is probably the best sign, one of the best signs that the government actually wants to work with you. And then some other things here. I always put the website, the CAGE code, UEI code. These are just codes, if you're not familiar with them, that are associated with your business with the government. So basically, when you register in SAM.gov, you'll get these, and they can look up your company on there. So that's just important because it tells them that, hey, this is a company that's registered to sell to the government. What are some other things that you could list on here, right? Because I don't have everything on here. This is just an example. Some other blocks, right? Let's say, you're looking at your capability statement, and like this one, you have a picture up there that tells me nothing, right? This is terrible. And so it's probably a good example. I would replace this, right? So again, if you provide services, accounting, cybersecurity, IT, something like that, something that where a picture is really not going to convey much of anything. You could put some other blocks in. You could put something in about awards, right? Has your company received awards? Have they been recognized publicly by a government agency? Or maybe even by a company, right? So there's some things like that you can put in here that can also help to set you apart. And then every industry is a little bit different, right? So you might list something like the 3 services that you really focus on, that that government office needs, right? So maybe if you're a cybersecurity business, it could be penetration testing. Cybersecurity staff support services. It could be something to do with training, right? But so you want to think creatively. And I think if you actually do the research on the government office that you're handing the capability statement to, then what you'll realize is that government office and their mission is, there are going to be some things inherent, just maybe even reading their website, that you could stick on here to really resonate with them. And it also tells them you did your homework, right? So it's not pandering. It's telling the government office, you take your time to actually do the research to what the office is doing, and your company solves a problem that they have. I personally, again, check out some of my other videos about finding opportunities before the solicitation comes out. A big proponent of that: sources sought, acquisitions forecasts, requests for information. You can research the office itself. There's lots of tools you can use to do that. So check out some of the other videos there. But, I like to find an opportunity that's already funded that's coming up. And that way I know that I'm not just wasting my time. I'm not sending out 1,000 of these to every acquisitions office to some to BS email list that I bought online, right? I might find 5 offices that have upcoming opportunities, and I solve their problem, and I want to convey some information to them. I did want to talk one other instance where you might submit a capability statement. And one area where you may have to submit something like this is in responding to a source as sought. So again, you can check out some of those other videos on our YouTube channel, but sometimes a source is sought or request for information from the government, which are going to come out on sam.gov. Sometimes they ask you for a CAPE statement, and they're also going to ask for some specific things, right? They'll have specific questions about the opportunity that they actually want answered. So in that case, again, you don't give them the generic CAPE statement. You keep some of this, but you want to make sure you're answering their questions. You know the opportunity. You know if they're hiring, contract specialists, then you shouldn't be giving them a capability statement talking about cybersecurity services or like the 50 different services you provide. They don't care. They're funded. They have a requirement for contract specialists. So this entire thing gets rewritten for contract specialists. Got it? Let's see. Christian has a question. If you're a small business that works out of their home, what's your recommendation as far as phone numbers are concerned? She did get a business cell or a voice IP system. So yeah, Christian, I don't know if you were in when I said that, but I would give them your personal cell phone number. If you're a small business, this is how I've done it. And by the way, I've also sold for companies, right? So if I was the sales executive putting this together for a business, and I have been, the phone number I put on here is my phone number because as the sales guy, I want them to call me. As a small business owner, Christian, you do not want the government getting any type of answering service. If, and again, you may not like this, but when I was in the acquisition side, on the government side, if I picked up a capability statement to call the company and I got an answering service, I would probably just hang up and move on. Depending on it's possible your company was so unique that I had to get through to you, but that you're wasting their time and you're taking a big gamble. Give them your cell phone number. You want to pick up. You want to be the one that picks up if they're calling you. So that's what I would do. Hopefully that answers your question. If anyone else wants to pop a question in, you can, because we're about to end this. But just a recap to anyone that hasn't been here from the beginning. Capability statement is a one-page marketing document. It's an industry standard for government contracting. If done well, it can help boost confidence with the government. It can give them a way to contact you. If done wrong or it's not thought through, it could definitely end a deal for you. It can definitely create the perception that your company doesn't know what they're doing. So won't win the deal, but I think it could lose the deal for you if you don't do this correctly. So one-page marketing document. Don't fill it up with pictures that don't mean anything. If you have pictures of something your company does that makes sense, that conveys something, you can use it that way. From top to bottom, a 1-2 bullet sentence max that says what your company does. You edit it every time you give it to a government office. And it should be for the problem you're trying to solve. If it's for a source of sought and they're putting contract specialists on contract, this says our company provides world-class contract specialists to the U.S. Air Force and Army, blah, blah, blah. Like it solves a problem you are going to do. Nothing vague, not you provide the services in every area. That's going to get lost. We provide contract specialists. We provide accounting services. We provide the thing that our office wants to put on contract. If you have past performance with government agencies or commercial, you can use some spot just to put some logos. If you have the authority or you have the approval to do that, that's up to you and your legal department. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other, except for the fact that I would receive them all the time on the government side. And I think subconsciously when we see this, we know you have past performance. In this case, we know that this company has worked with several agencies. You could put a little bit of something about your company, but don't go overboard here because I never read it. Most people probably don't. What we care about is, do you solve my problem? Do you have past performance? If it's required, what are your use cases, right? So this I would read. Where did you solve the problem? This is not generalities. Who was it for? What government office or what company? Sometimes I get it. You may not have you might not have permission to talk about something classified you've done. Maybe a company also doesn't want you to talk about it. But if you have the ability to say the name of the company or the agency, you want to say it. And by the way, even if you didn't, if you were working with an agency that was, part of like maybe the intelligence community that you couldn't name, you could say with the IC. maybe. Just make sure you're not breaking any laws there, or any agreements you have. But if you be specific, be specific. Use numbers and percentages. We helped them do X and it saved them money, this amount of money. We did X and it reduced training time by 10%. We did this and it was 42% faster. We did that. You get my point, right? So no one cares about generalities, especially the DoD. Tell me what you did and make sure it's a number or percentage. Something else you could actually do is provide government contacts if you've done government contracts before. So small use cases. No one's going to read a paragraph, 1 or 2 bullets. Coming down here, good morning. What we're looking at right here, do you provide a template? Yeah, Christian, we have one we do, yep, in GovClose. So if you go to govclose.com, if anyone on here is in GovClose in our certification program, actually this exact template editable is in there and you can use that. Contract vehicles. If you sell to the government, how can the government put you on contract? Again, I'm just doing a quick recap for everybody. You want to put your vehicles down there. Government offices need a way to put you on contract. Several times I've wanted to put a company on contract and I couldn't because there was no way to do it. They didn't have any vehicles. They weren't on GSA. They didn't have past performance. So we want to give the government, we want them to know if you have these type of vehicles, what are they? I used a sample here, GSA, NASA SOUP. This tells the government office that they have some flexibility to put you on contract. Here, anything for your specific industry that could potentially garner confidence with the government, in this case, a software business, I want them to know that we have an approval to operate on several government networks. It's a very hard problem for the government to solve. It takes a lot of time. If I have the ATO, it makes it easier. There's some other things you could put in here. FedRAMP certified, you can talk about CMMC, there are, depending on what your company does, your certifications, like lots of stuff that you could put in here that are going to resonate with the government office. And then finally, details. Put your name, if you're the business owner. Put a phone number on here that is not an answering service. A live human being needs to be able to pick up when the phone number is dialed. Same thing with email, not not the company generalized database. This should be somebody you trust, if not yourself. So there's an immediate response. If the government's reaching out to you, that is an amazingly good sign, and you do not want to waste it by causing them a delay. Or worse, it goes to some place where they're just not going to get a response. And then you can see just some other stuff here, cage code, UEI, address, website. So quick recap. That was the capability statement. Hopefully everyone got something from that. And let me just see here. I don't see any other questions in here. So if you missed any part of this, you will be able to replay this on YouTube. I'll repost it at some point this week as well. Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next time.